Are we ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll start. So as humans, we are innately designed to be helpful, to go that extra back-breaking mile for someone who needs our help.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's always the notion that you should put on your oxygen mask first before you help the person next to you. And helping others shouldn't mean that you should lose out in the process. So hello, everyone, and welcome to EB Speaks. I am your host, Ibinabo Enebi, and I want to thank all of my faithful viewers. I appreciate you, all of my subscribers. Thank you for joining us today. I mean, it's been a while since I had EB Speaks. I think I didn't do EB Speaks the whole of November. You know, it's been a very tricky time for me. And I just feel that it's better to do the 1% than to do nothing. And so I'm here showing up. So EB Speaks is a program that informs, encourages, motivates you to make better and intentional decisions for yourself. And I do this by featuring everyday people like you and me, thought leaders and experts, to share their stories and their expertise, because I believe that collectively our voices, which are our stories and expertise, can serve as streetlights and survival kits for those coming behind us. So today on EB Speaks, we'll continue our conversation on avoiding the later life crisis series. And guys, I've had several topics on avoiding the later life crisis series. I've done things on finances, on marriage, on knowing your identity, on mental health, or quite a few. And I'd like you to check it out. And today, transformational coach and behavioral analyst Kelechi Olawoyin is speaking on the topic, help yourself first before you help others. And I hope that at the end of this conversation that you would learn how to help others from a place of strength and abundance, that you would learn how to self-regulate to avoid the pitfalls of overgiving, if there's a word like that, and you get a better understanding on how to develop your growth mindset and how to set healthy boundaries and how to also to reflect on your life. But I also know that this topic is a little bit complicated because there are other different kinds of complexes that can inform the need to want to help people. And I hope that Kelechi and I will touch on those conversations. And so before I delve into this conversation proper, I'd like to introduce my guest. Kelechi has a powerful resume. I mean, she is very much into the talent development space. And I just want to read out an abridged version of her resume. Kelechi holds a bachelor's degree in mass communication from the University of Nigeria in Nsukka, and an M.Sc in mass communication from the University of Lagos, Nigeria. She's a pioneer alumnus of the British Council LEA Interaction Leadership Program in Nigeria. She's also a certified transformation coach, certified behavioral analyst, Myers-Briggs type indicator, MBTI, and DISC. She's also a certified balanced scorecard practitioner. Kelechi's interests are in talent management, strategy, business transformation, content development, leadership development, and training, and have used extensively in her work with civil societies and the international development sectors, such as consults facilitator for DFID, World Bank consultative process on improving better service delivery in Nigeria, lead facilitator on the Debate to Action program with the British Council and World Bank, member of the Expert Commission, Talent Development for Foundation Botna, one of the top 3 foundations in Switzerland from 2018 to 2020, a member of the steering committee, UNICEF YOMA Project Africa, and HR advisor, HAFA International Africa Regional Office. And Kelechi is also the chairman of board, Street Projects, and much more. So Kelechi, welcome to EB Speaks.
Thank you, EB.
And listen, and guys, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe. It's Ibinabo and Enebi. And you can help this channel to grow by subscribing to my YouTube channel. And you can follow me on my Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all Ibinabo and Enebi. Kelechi, before we start this conversation, there is something that I saw on your LinkedIn page.
What's that?
Triggered. And I want to share this picture, right? And I hope I practiced the screen sharing, and I hope I'm able to share it. Let me not go share my, hey, Jesus, where is this thing? Let me not go share my ancestors. The other day I tried to share. Can anybody see it?
Yes.
Oh, everybody can see it. Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
On LinkedIn, right? I saw this picture. And I saw, and I'm sure we all can see this, we see somebody, helping people. He likes to help. He's smiling. And at the end of the day, he has nothing for himself. And yet the people who he's helped are smiling. And I'm like, wow, this is so, it's thought-provoking. So I would ask you, Kelechi, why do people have the compulsion to help people without looking after themselves? Because if you look at this man's picture, you could see that he was smiling and helping people. And at the end of the day, he ended up having nothing for himself. And you could see that he was happy.
Thank you, Evie. You and I, when we chatted about this picture, we agreed that neither of us are psychologists, right?
Yeah.
But we're old enough and experienced enough in life and in the different spaces that we work to be able to postulate a few things. So we spoke about this syndrome that we spoke about, the narcissistic syndrome, right?
No, we spoke about. No, it wasn't the narcissist. It was the savior complex.
The savior complex.
The Messiah complex.
So the Messiah complex, where some people feel the need to be desired, to be wanted, to be needed. All right. And so because of that, they constantly and continuously go out of their way, even when it's extremely dangerous and painful to themselves, to do things for other people, just to have that feeling of belonging, of feeling of being needed. We agree that. And there's also the desire for people to feel that they're relevant, so they feel that if I do something for somebody, I'm making myself relevant. And there are also other people that use that as a form of control as well. So we explored different reasons why. But I think for me, the reason why that cartoon really struck me, because I'm also in a space in my life, I've worked for about 20 years, right? And I'm asking myself some really hard questions, like, what have you built? Yes, you're focused on mentoring and trying to coach people, and you've done that for so many years. But I hope, and I was talking to myself, I hope you haven't done that at the expense of building yourself as well and building your life, because the worst thing that can happen to you is at the end of it all, after having built people and supported people, you get to the space where you have nothing, they have everything, and then you begin to want to pull them down. And I also spoke about the fact that sometimes if you don't build for yourself while you're building for others, because it's also very important to invest in other people. We both agreed that.
Yeah.
You'll get to a stage in your life where you are supposed to transit into some sort of a kingmaker, but you now begin to compete with your harvest, with your mentees and your coachees, and it gets really messy. All right. So for me, that was really why that cartoon struck me. And it started me on a journey of self-reflection. You picked it up. You also started thinking of other things. And here we are having this conversation.
Fantastic, Kelechi.
Yeah.
And, and some people are watching and they're listening and they're saying,
yeah,
Kelechi has said so many things. We've talked about the savior complex, the need to, and for some people, it's not about that, it's just some kind of an upbringing or a teaching that is drummed into us. So for example, I remember when I was growing up, let me speak in vernacular. My dad would say, Obara chwa monipire, it means help people. You mean if you see somebody in need, in danger, help. So that whole notion of being of service and being of help, and sometimes not even expecting anything in return, ingrained in our faculties, But I want to ask this question, Kelechi. So that's an aside. So what I've done is to bring about two different scenarios. We've talked about the fact that some people may have this need to control. We may have this, this wanting to help to gain acceptance or self-worth and all of that. But some people also want to help because it's a right thing to do. So now somebody may be listening and saying, so how do I know that I'm not going down that dangerous slope in my being of service? Because we've talked about, we've talked about, the various, eerie and scary aspects of it. And somebody could be sitting down and saying, so how do I know that I'm not going down a dangerous slope?
Good question. I think when you begin to become resentful, then you know that you're going down that, dangerous slippery slope. And I think one of the things that we ought to do as human beings is always to find time to self-reflect. We don't do that often enough. And to question the reasons why we do things and the motives why we do these things. And if we don't take time to reflect and ask ourselves, what is my motive? What is driving this behavior? We might never really get to the root of the matter where we begin to understand when we're exhibiting really dangerous behaviors, or we're also going into that space. So for me, and I'm speaking from experience, when I begin to get resentful, when I begin to get angry, when I begin to feel like I'm putting myself last all the time and I'm feeling like I'm missing something, then I know that I'm doing more harm to myself than to the other person. So the other person is receiving all of the benefits, but then I'm angry about it, and then I'm upset about it, and then I'm beginning to feel like, why am I even doing this in the first instance? So it's always important to self-reflect, but I think most importantly to set those boundaries, what you can do and what you can do. When we're talking, Ibi, I was speaking to you about something that my pastor said many, many years ago. And he said, you've got to remember or recognize the fact that you're a limited resource. All right? You're a limited resource. And that means you're not for everybody, number one. Number two, you can't spread yourself too thin, because once you do that, you lose value. And it's something that I recognize really early. And I also learned to say no quite happily, without any guilt, without any sense of guilt, or without any sense of, or am I doing the wrong thing? Now, there's a converse side to this. We are supposed to help people because that is the right thing to do, and even sacrifice for people because, yes, that is the right thing to do. But the worst thing to do to yourself is if you are constantly on the giving end and you don't give to yourself. I'm not saying for people to give to you. I'm saying you give to yourself. You've got to learn to give to yourself. So when was the last time that you treated yourself? When was the last time you did something nice for yourself? Because sometimes if you wait for people to do things for you, they're never going to get around it. Maybe they don't even have the capacity to give back. And the reason for giving is not to expect people to give back, really. So it's important that while you're making those plans to give to other people, you also have made plans to give to yourself. And I also quoted from the Bible, because people use that a lot to say, yeah, but you have to love your neighbor as yourself. But if you read that particular scripture, it says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. So in other words, if you don't love yourself, it's unlikely that you're going to love your neighbor. So it's important to love yourself first, because you can't give what you don't
have. Kelechi, you know what? Kelechi, listen, let me just clap for you first and foremost, because, this conversation is it's very deep and it's very nuanced. So, and that's why I want us to, I have looked at it in pockets. So we're talking about the symptoms, and then we'll talk about the solutions and all of that. I don't want us to go off in tangents. I want us to structure so that we have, because it's a very interesting conversation. And this is what you said about what your pastor said is so right, that if you give to everybody, then you lose value. And then my audience, listeners, if you have any questions, if you have any contributions, please feel free to leave those contributions in the comments box, and I will read those questions out. Kelechi, you and I touched on something yesterday, and it's about women. And this is not to say it doesn't happen to men as well. And we had a very robust conversation to that regard, that as women, sisters, mothers, we give. And, and I always say, and I told you that in our giving, we get lost in the translations of the roles that we play. Absolutely. And the duties that we perform, because we are there giving. Especially if, I don't know, listen, my child needs this, my child needs that. And so in giving, a lot of times, some of us, we're supposed to fly, but we walk. We're supposed to walk, but we crawl. We need to be there to be the driver, or be the cook, or be everything for our children. And a lot of people are saying, in my generation, are saying that we are bearing one of the most selfish children of all times. And a lot of children do not, I don't know, but I pray that, it doesn't happen to us, but that there comes a time when, after all said and done, it's like, yeah, you had the opportunity. Why didn't you help yourself?
Absolutely.
So it's so crazy. Now, Kelechi, and again, I want to go back to this question, right? A lot of people would say, okay, we are taught to give, and the Bible says we should love our neighbors as ourselves. And as a matter of fact, on my Instagram, I have to put that quote. That's what Jesus said. Jesus said it. God said it in the 10 Commandments. How can we navigate that slope of healthy giving and unhealthy giving? Like, how can we navigate that slope?
Good question. You know that, like I said, people give for several reasons. Some people give altruistically, right? They just want to give, and they're happy doing that, and there are no strings attached. They don't have any issues with that. But others have a few issues. Now, for parents, one thing I've discovered is the fact that sometimes parents give because they have an end in mind. All right. So you have parents that say things like, this is my investment. And therefore, they are giving all of that to their children, or even to their spouses, with the hope that the same thing will be done back to them. All right. So you find parents, especially women. So let's talk about women, right? They hold back their careers. They hold back not just their careers, whatever it is that they want to do, their dreams. And then they try to live vicariously through their kids, and they often get that pushback and the disappointment, like, it's my life, it's not your life, go live your life.
And then the blackmail starts.
The blackmail just comes out, like, after everything I did for you, and then you have to like, I didn't beg you to do it for me. Who begged you? You know. So the truth is this: there is no easy answer, Evie, because you know many people on this call are parents. Some are parents, some are not. Some are spouses, some are not. But each and every one of us, we have roles that we play in our lives, and the important thing is, first of all, as a human being, who are you? Ibinabo, who are you? What are the roles that you play? Those roles make up the different facets of your life. And for you to be fulfilled and for you to be fully confident and happy in your achievements, whatever those achievements are, you've got to have identified those different roles that you play, and you're actively walking through those roles. If you neglect some parts of those roles that you play and concentrate on one alone, you're going to end up being very resentful, you're angry, you're saying life happened to you. And the truth is that not every person is cut out to be a career person. Look, whether you're, a woman or a man, there are people that are just content with, just give me this job, I'm okay with it. Don't do anything sexy with this thing, okay? I'm happy. There are others that really just want to fly. They want to do global stage. They want to do this. They want to do UN. They want to do that. And it's all okay. The important thing is you as an individual, what do you want? What are the roles that you play? And what are the values that drive you? So the values that drive you, first of all, I don't know how many people have read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Covey. Stephen Covey says that if your values are not based on principles, all right, then those values are likely to fail the test of time. So principles are universal laws, and they're the same everywhere, all over the world. So one principle is the same everywhere. For instance, the law of gravity, the law of sowing and reaping, all right? Everywhere, what you sow is what you reap. It happens everywhere. People call it law of karma, whatever, all right? So if your values are not based on principles of life, they're universal, then those values will fail the test of time. So whatever it is that drives you, for some people, it is career, that it is a recognition that drives them, or a career. For others, it is family. For others, it is the financial health, or readiness, whatever it is. But whatever it is that drives you must be based on principles for it to stand the test of time and for you to be fulfilled at the end of the day. Because after all is said and done, it is your choice. So recognize the fact that first and foremost, you are an individual, you make your choices. So, one of the things that I've learned early in my career is never to say somebody made me do something. Nobody made you do anything. You made a choice. You agreed to follow that route. So nobody can make you do what you don't want to do. It sounds easier said than done, but it is true. Nobody can make you do. There's sometimes that things happen. I agree. Accidents, you don't plan it, assaults, you don't plan it. But if you make a choice and say, this is what I want to do, I want to sit back, I want to do something, then be very sure in your mind that this is the space and the route I have decided, and therefore no guilt tripping. I'm not guilt tripping myself. I'm not guilt tripping my kids. I'm not guilt tripping my friends or my spouse. This is what I've decided to do, and I'm going to do it. Circumstances do not bend an individual. You bend the circumstances. That's just the truth. And it depends on what is inside of you. So it sounds like a theory, but it is really true. And I have multiple examples of people that I have known in my life that have been exposed to the most strenuous and the most difficult circumstances of life, but they made a choice. It was a choice. I will not allow this to shape me. I will not allow this to guide my thinking, and therefore this is what I will do. So same thing about giving. You can't say, I was made to, you forced me. Same thing about helping people. Nobody forces you. You make a choice, you decide that's the route you're going to take. Giving is, the only person that I believe that you can give with an expectation of of getting anything back
is God.
Really. Really, because human beings, like I was telling you yesterday, with all our best intentions, you have failed somebody that you love. I have failed somebody that I love. Even when I made a commitment, yeah, I'm going to do it, I promise, and I didn't. All right. So we all fail at one point or the other. So whatever it is that we decide to do for somebody, we have to do it with the full knowledge of the fact that there are no expectations from that individual, and we're doing it happily. We're doing it because we want to do it, not because we're expecting something, whether it's a long-term expectation or a short-term expectation. We're doing it because we want to do it.
Fantastic. Kelechi, thank you so much. And there's something that you've said a lot, but there's one thing that I'm taking away from what you just said, and it's the fact that when you decide to give or decide to do something for somebody, then you should stand by, whatever the consequences of it, you should bear it, because nobody forced you to do it. Because even at the end of the day, the people that you helped to tell you, I did not force you to help.
I did not beg you.
I did not beg you. I didn't beg you. So exactly. Yeah. Now, I want us to go straight to the next question, which is now the helping process. Helping process. So I would go by asking this question. So how do we begin helping ourselves first without feeling selfish or greedy?
Self-love.
Self-love.
We hear it all the time, but it is true. Ibi, the truth is many of us don't like ourselves. Many of us don't love ourselves. Oftentimes we think other people are better than us, and maybe they are. But the truth is we've all been created differently. We all have unique attributes that God blessed us with. And so there must be something that is different and worth celebrating about us. Now, I'm not speaking about whether somebody is a good person or not a good person. That's not what I'm talking about, all right? I'm just speaking about the fact that each and every one of us have unique attributes that we're born with or created with. So the first thing to do is to accept yourself, all right? Yeah. Before you can even change, you've got to accept where you are. In behavioral analysis, you've got to, first of all, accept where you are. This is where I am. And then this is what I need to change. If you do need to change, all right? But you've got to accept where you are, first of all. And then the second thing, speaking about self-love, is to create time to get to know yourself. Now, I'm not speaking about an unhealthy fascination with self. So I really want to keep emphasizing this because, being a Christian, is very important for me to also make sure that I'm not focused on myself. I'm just speaking about getting to know yourself. And how do you do that? By getting feedback, but also reflection. I'm not talking about meditation because there are different kinds of meditation, and I don't want to go into that space, but I'm just speaking about self-reflection. Who am I? What do I like? One of the things that helped me very early on in my life was reading the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and actually attending the workshop. And we went through this discovery session where we're told to write our mission statement. But, it would be easy to say, yeah, this is what I want to do. No, we went through about 2 hours of reflections and asking ourselves questions. What are your values? What do you like? What roles do you currently play? What are your dreams? Going through all of that. In fact, after doing that workshop, I quit my job. I was working in a consulting firm then because I realized that wasn't what I wanted to do. All right. So it helps you to know exactly where you are at and what you want to do, what your possibilities are, and where your dreams, are also tending to. So that art of self-reflection, going through a discovery process, your likes, your dislikes, getting people that you trust and you're safe with to give you feedback about what you've seen. I've done I think in my life, I've done about 5 DISC assessments. It's a personality assessment. I've also done about 3 MBTI assessments, and they're all the same. So I'm never worried, because I have a view of the kinds of things that I like, who I like, how I like to work, the kind of bosses that I prefer to work with, and usually what my bosses should expect from me and what the people that work with me should expect from me. So very clear. So if you want to go through that route of, really getting to know yourself, that is the route to go through. Make sure that you self-reflect, you get feedback from, people, you understand what drives you, and then you begin to also look for ways to, to make yourself feel better, love yourself, take a day off, take a walk, buy something nice for yourself. I think it was after my mother and my sister died of cancer many years ago, within 1 year of each other, I decided that nothing was a Christmas dress, nothing was to be worn only on Sundays, nothing was to be, kept till the end of the. I just started to live life because I realized that I needed to begin to just invest in myself. Nothing was too expensive to be spent, and I'm not talking about. People have different things that they do. I like to invest in them knowledge, so I can spend money and go for a course in Oxford because that's what I want to do. All right. So I can't say, it's too much money for me. No, if somebody else can, do it for themselves, why can't I do it? So I think when you get to the point where you can do something for yourself, it's actually easier to do it for somebody else.
Fantastic.
Because you have done it for yourself before.
Fantastic. Kelechi, there's something that you said. Mm-hmm. You talked about how you went for the self-assessment, something, yeah? And
7 habits.
Yeah, the 7 habits of successful people. And somebody may be listening and saying, okay, so Kelechi had the opportunity to do that, right? Because again, it was in a professional setting, and of course, it was a very rigorous exercise. Now, assuming somebody doesn't have the kind of resources to do that, how then can you have feedback about yourself, honest feedbacks? Do you talk to friends? Do you talk to colleagues, people you feel safe with? Because really, I'm just talking about practical terms.
Knowledge. Read a book. The 7 habits is a book, truly. And people if you can read a book, understand it, love it, and share some of the views, then you can read a book to change your life. Honestly, so whether you are reading a book, whether you are speaking with friends, whether you are speaking to somebody that can give you that honest feedback, then do it. But you don't have to wait to be in a workshop, because I read the 7 habits book first before attending the workshop. The workshop just happened. It wasn't something I even intended to attend. But if you read the book would actually give you the same sort of journey and help you to do the same sort of rigorous assessment of yourself, even if you don't attend the workshop. And by God, there are so many tools out there on the internet. The internet is your friend. just go. But just be careful not to dabble into any of this funny new age stuff, right? I would always say that, because it could, I don't know how people can do that, but yeah, just be careful.
Yeah. Kelechi, but just for the sake of my channel, this is not to promote any book. This is not.
No, we're not.
Yeah, yes. So for the sake of my channel, so I'm not promoting any book. This is not product placement, just so YouTube knows that.
Absolutely.
Now, before we delve into the next part of our conversation, there's quite some interesting thoughts that have been written here, and I want to read them. Priska says, we cannot be burden bearers to people who don't want to live a productive life. Establishment of boundaries and utilizing assertiveness and consistency in expectation is important to avoid going down that slippery slope.
Absolutely.
We all have this And I'm going to say this, and without just prejudice, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot
Mm-hmm.
of times, Kelechi, I'm sure you know that
Mm-hmm.
it happens to a lot of pastors. They are pouring out,
Giving.
pouring
Yeah.
out, pouring out.
Yeah.
And sometimes, because we're supposed to have the nature of Christ, you practically are like pouring water into a basket.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them end up being depressed.
Mm-hmm.
That's just an aside. Now,
Mm-hmm.
somebody said here, Femi said, excellent submission. And somebody else, Priska said, the concept of self-love involves intentionality,
Mm-hmm.
acceptance of self, and
Mm-hmm.
give to self the same forgiveness, give to
Yes.
others, taking out time to care for self, even when it is difficult. Thank you so
Mm-hmm.
much, Priska, for that. Now, I want us to talk about self-regulating.
Mm-hmm.
How do we self-regulate? We've talked about self-reflecting.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we self-regulate to avoid the pitfalls?
So let me tell you what I do, because really there are no hard and fast rules. Everybody's different. People have different thresholds, all right? But what I do is I make sure that at least once a week, I find time to be quiet. Okay? I find time to be quiet. And honestly, I fight for that time with all my might. Like, I literally fight for that time with all of my might, because I need that time to be able to reflect on the week, reflect on what I've committed to doing or being, and reflect on myself as well. And let me tell you, there are different times in life. Life happens to each and every one of us. Sometimes you don't even realize that you're going into a really bad state of mind. And if you don't quickly, bring yourself back up, you may never have that opportunity. So what I do for myself to self-regulate is to find time to be quiet. And then the second thing that I do, Ibi, I'm someone that believes firmly in boundaries. So like Priska said, I am a very boundary pro person, or pro boundary person.
Yeah.
I don't let you into my space. I don't care whether you think I'm being arrogant, or you think I'm being, whatever. I have firm boundaries. There are things I will not let somebody do for me or come into my space. I'm a very pro boundary person, because those boundaries protect me, and they protect me from having conversations I shouldn't be having, getting into situations I shouldn't be getting into. So every single one of us must have those boundaries. The problem is many of us don't have boundaries. We just let anything go. I mean, somebody was talking to me, I think it was today. I was talking about the fact that somebody was complaining that their boss doesn't let them come to their house. And I said, but I don't like my work people coming to my house either. Why should they come to my house? And the person was like, but that's not nice. I said, no. For you to come to my house, with that means we've transcended
the workspace.
And that means we are now friends, where we've become friends. All right, then you can come to my house. But you can't come to my house simply because you work with me, and you can't come to my house simply because I can't go to your house simply because I work with you. So we must respect boundaries. And let me talk about it, because I'm an HR
because I have the question actually on how. Yeah, so let's talk about how to set the healthy boundaries then.
Okay. So some people require more boundaries than others, Evie. Also because you understand yourself and you understand what you're prone to. Okay. So if you understand yourself, you're able to know the kind of boundaries you should place. And now it really also has to do with your personality. Introverts have more boundaries than extroverts, but I also know extroverts that have very healthy boundaries. So it's really about understanding yourself and what you would allow and what you would not allow. The problem is, like I said, many of us don't have those boundaries, and we allow all sorts of rubbish, even in the workplace. So for instance, if I'm working for someone, the person has no business asking me about the intimate parts of my family or my life. It's none of your business. All right. If I have a colleague at work, and I will say that because I'm an HR person, and people expect HR people to, I want to know, did you eat today at home? Did your children eat? No, that's not my job. That's not my job. My job is to make sure that you are okay. And if you're comfortable enough to want to open up to me, of course, it's also with strong confidentiality put in place. But it is never mandated that you must speak to me about your personal issues, or you must speak to your boss. So I always coach my leaders in the organization to say, you don't have a right to ask somebody personal questions about their life if they are not willing to share that. Before they're even willing to share, that means you've built some certain level of trust with those people. So it's important for us to know, because, as Africans, honestly, we don't have boundaries.
I was going to say that.
As Nigerians, we don't have boundaries. What are you saying? I know your mother now. I know your father. What do you mean? I'm like, yeah, whatever. But we have to have those healthy boundaries. The fact that my parents or my siblings doesn't automatically make you my friend. And, and people resent the fact that you place boundaries, but boundaries are important because they're one of the how would I put it? They are one of the signs that you are healthy, you're a healthy person, and that you also love yourself. You must have boundaries. If you don't have boundaries, I mean, the Bible says it's a city without walls. My goodness, what's going to happen to that city? It will be overrun. Everybody will come in, everything goes out and in. Okay, so you must have boundaries.
Fantastic. I think that, culturally, in our culture, we don't, everybody's into everybody's business. Everybody, they want to know this, they want to know that. And I don't think it's healthy. And then sometimes when you want to establish those boundaries, they say you're very arrogant, you're very pompous. That is not how we grew up. You're very secretive. I'm just saying, but it's true. And guys, please, if you have any questions or comments, please leave those comments in the comment section below, and I would answer and I'll read the questions out, and Kelechi would answer those questions. And Kelechi, I want to read something here that somebody said. How do we draw a line between self-love and selfishness?
I think someone answered that question.
The line can be blurry.
Blurry, yes. And then someone, Chika answered, and he said, it's blurry when we allow it to be blurry. Absolutely. You can have immense love for others and still protect yourself. Nobody has unlimited access to your resources, money, time, or emotions.
Let me even quote it now, Seth. Nobody has unlimited. Wow, this is amazing.
That's it.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I'll just put it here so I don't forget. I mean, this is, but sometimes, we also, a lot of us people have the sense of entitlement to say, hey, it's my brother, it's my sister. So because it's my brother and my sister, so I have right to that person's time and resources, but then it's not part of our culture. It's not how we grew up.
The truth is, with each relationship, there are different kinds of boundaries. For some, the boundaries become closer. For some, the boundaries are extended. Now, for your immediate family, for spouses, even for spouses, people will tell you, but you're one. There's some boundaries, all right? There's some healthy boundaries, because without that, even though spiritually you're one, but there are some healthy boundaries. All right? But that is the closest relationship with you, and that is probably the person that has most access to anything that you have. Okay, so let's establish that. So for each relationship, there are different kinds of boundaries. There are boundaries for the workplace, there are boundaries for friendships. There are some friends that are closer than others, so the boundaries are a little closer. So you even have that boundary of personal space, right? When you feel someone that you don't know is stepping too close to you, and you're like, you're getting into my personal space. So the closer the relationship to the relationship is, the closer that boundary is to your person. So you would have people based on their relationship with you that have expectations, and I would say with inverted a comma, rightly so, because of the nature of their relationship, your children, your spouse, sometimes some members of your extended family, depending on your relationship with that person. But even at every point in time, there are boundaries. And Ibi, do you know that even as an individual, do you know you have boundaries for yourself? Do you know that?
Yeah.
Okay. You have boundaries for yourself. So there are things that you can never and you must never do. And when you get to that tipping point, that if I cross this, I'm crossing my own boundary.
That's and I have the red lines.
That's the red lines.
Yeah.
So even as individuals, you have boundaries for yourself. How much more? Why won't you have boundaries for other people?
And this is what Gladys says here. Gladys has been so very active in listening to our conversations. It says, Hi, Kelechi and Ibinabo, well done. Very relevant topic. For all aspects of life, everything, just what I'm thinking. She says, it talks about the entitlement mentality. And somebody says here, as a psychotherapist, I explain self-love to my patients as somewhat an act of healthy selfishness. If the goal of self-care is to take care of yourself and maintain a healthy distance from people that trigger stress in your life, then it's a healthy selfishness. If it is to recoup after a continued act of giving to family and others, it's okay to be selfish. And I like the way she said it. I like what she said here, that that self-care is to take care of yourself and maintain a healthy distance from people that trigger stress in your life. Fantastic. And I want to read something else that somebody said here. Thank you so much. Please keep the comments coming. And someone says, how do you make a senior colleague understand and respect your boundaries when they feel they know better than you? That's a question for you, Kelechi.
That's a good one. So if somebody feels that they know better than you, that means that at some point in time, you haven't exhibited mastery of your space. Because unless the person is a bully, all right, because we have bullies in the workplace.
Some people are bullies.
Yeah, of course, in the workplace, absolutely. Except the person is a bully. But for people to continuously put down your contribution, it could also mean that you haven't shown mastery in your space. So you also need to ask yourself, what am I not saying, or how am I communicating my expertise? And I can give you an example.
Please do that.
Okay, I can give you an example. Maybe you are an executive, or you're one of the top management in an organization, and you are in a board meeting. You have this monthly board meetings, and you are one of those that you never say. And can you mute Maureen, please?
Yeah, I want to do that. Yeah.
Okay, great. And you're one of those people. You sit in those meetings in and out, and you never say anything. Nobody's going to take you seriously. So even when you're trying to drive your agenda, nobody's going to listen to you. I've seen that happen all the time.
Really?
Yes.
So if you don't say anything, nobody takes it seriously.
Nobody takes it seriously. They're like, okay, they're there. They're not doing anything. Okay, did they talk? Oh, no, they don't talk. So they make decisions above your head. All right. And sometimes, you would have to go the extra mile. Sometimes maybe acting in a way that is not really aligned to your core personality, just to prove a point. And let me give you a very funny story. When I first started in my organization, now HR was not sitting at the table, all right? So the HR before me was just administrative, where they'll just say, oh, HR can't do this, HR fire that person. So of course, where I was coming from, that wasn't how HR operated. So the first executive meeting that we had, there was this technical partnership that we were exploring with one of the automotive giants in Europe. And some of my colleagues had some meetings with them, and they had just come back somewhere in Europe. I can't remember. And they came for the meeting, they were giving feedback, and then they were speaking about people. Oh, by the way, this is what we need to do. We're going to develop the skills. And so Kelechi, so this is what you're going to do. I'm like, no, nobody tells me what to do. Now, typically, I wouldn't say that because I would consider that very rude. But I wanted to prove a point because that was my first meeting. And my mom used to say something, start as you mean to go on, right? So how you want people to treat you from day one, start to behave like that so that they're not going to...
Let me write it down first.
They're not going to be thinking, oh, I can't do this. So, and I said, no, why? I'm not going to do it. They said, no, what do you mean? So very out of character, I hit my two hands on the table. I'm not kidding you. I knew what I was doing. I was acting. Please don't try this in your office. So I just hit my two hands on the table and I said, I didn't come here for you to tell me what to do. This is my space. And if you're going to make decisions for my space, then I better go back to where I'm coming from. Because you should have consulted me. You did not consult me. So if we're going to have any conversation in this space that is my responsibility, then come and have a conversation with me. And the whole room went quiet. And I just kept my face like, yeah, with a smile. It never happened again. Okay.
That now, was establishment.
Yes. I'm
making a mission statement.
I'm not saying that people should do that, but I'm working in a predominantly male-dominated organization. All right, 75% are men. So I needed to do something a little unusual to get my point across. And the truth is, that wasn't the end of the battle. I needed to continue to fight to make sure that my voice was heard and that nobody took me, like, oh, this is just HR. So guess what, Ibi? Right now, you don't make, in fact, business decisions that touches on people, you got to be kidding. They invite me into the meeting. I'm in every meeting. I am in every meeting. So my opinion gets to be asked. What do you think? How should we proceed? That's the right thing to do. Well, so far as they are in my space, you've got to consult me. You've got to ask me, what do we need to do as an organization? Because this is the strategy, but how are we going to execute the people part of the strategy? And that is my job. All right. So what I'm simply saying is, this, and to the lady that asked the question, you've got to find a way. Please don't do what I did because different organizations, different, okay? But you've got to find a way to push forward your thoughts. So in a meeting, you could spend some time just writing down your thoughts. And then sometime during the meeting, you speak up. The problem with us that many of us don't speak up. We are afraid of hearing our own voices. We don't want to say anything because they'll think, oh, it's stupid. Now, one of the things that I am not afraid or ashamed of is asking a question. And I don't care how stupid it sounds, I'll ask it anyway. Because I ask myself, what's the worst thing that can happen? Really? You would laugh at me. Okay, that's fine. We'll move on. So please learn to speak up in meetings. Please learn to manage your stakeholders. Managing your stakeholders means when you have an idea, you have a piece of work that you need to deliver. You need to learn to engage the responsible parties or people that have a voice at the table, so that when you go there, you can have people backing you up. Let me give you another example. 2021 performance year ended in January of 2022, which is what we do as an organization. Now, I had this feeling, and it was shown time and time again, that my CEO, I just kind of felt like he didn't really understand what HR was doing. I just felt that he just thought HR was, just make my people happy, just hire people and, and all of that nonsense. So,
and all of that nonsense.
Because I was like, HR is much more than that. And so what I did for my performance review with him, and it was a one-on-one, I decided to do a presentation. And the presentation was going to capture the status of a 5-year HR strategy. Now, that HR strategy, that was the first thing I did when I joined. All right. Within the first 3 months, I knocked out my 5-year strategy and I shared it with him, but I can tell you, he doesn't remember the details of it. So I needed to let him know that this is how far we've gone. So I put the presentation together. So my performance review that was supposed to be a 1-hour conversation ended up being a 3-hour conversation. And I could see the respect. And he kept telling me, oh my God, I didn't realize he had done this. Oh my God, I didn't realize he had done this. Oh my God, I didn't realize he had done this. All right. So sometimes you also need to look at, how am I communicating my achievements? How am I communicating my thoughts and what I can do? And if you feel that I've not been doing this in the right way, then you've got to find a way to make sure that your voice is heard. But heard your voice must be. You have to do it.
Fantastic. Now, I want to read some comments here. Someone says here, boundaries are meant to protect your core values, principles, values, and morals. Every relationship must involve each party identifying their red lines. Any relationship that doesn't have any of the above is in trouble. And
absolutely.
Somebody also says, once you allow someone into your space and they overstep your set boundaries, please save yourself early by stepping back, no matter who it is. Trust your intuition. Thank you very much. And somebody asked another question here. How do you stop sabotaging your personal boundaries?
Wow, these are really deep questions. And I wish I could ask someone to answer that, but let me attempt to do that. How do you stop sabotaging your boundaries? You know, we sabotage ourselves when we don't believe in ourselves. And it's almost like a vicious circle, right? Like a chicken and an egg. Do you love yourself first and then create the boundaries, or do you create the boundaries and then love yourself? It's almost like that situation. But the reason why we sabotage ourselves is because we don't really believe those boundaries and we don't really understand the values that we have. If we really understand those values, it's very difficult for somebody or for you to overstep something that you hold so dear in your life. Very difficult. It must take a calculated and constant attempt to breach those walls for that to fall. So I would say take a step back and ask yourself some questions. Who am I? What is important to me? What are my dreams? What do I think about myself? All right. And once you establish those answers, and it's important to begin to note down the responses that you've given to yourself. And like I said, sometimes you need some help. So get some people that you trust to also give you feedback. But constantly sabotaging yourself is telling me that some mental issues going on. It could be depression. It could be, whatever. But it just shows me that there's something going on that you need to, respond to, either in a clinical way or using a psychologist or whatever else. But it just tells me that something is going on there. Now, like I said, I am not a psychologist. We have people like that on this call that will be able to, speak more about that. But basically, if you find out that you're constantly sabotaging yourself, that it just simply means that you have no healthy self-esteem, and you need to take a step back and reevaluate.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Kelechi. Now, one of the end or the byproducts of our conversation would be that at the end of the day, that our listeners would learn to help people from a place of growth and a place of abundance. So, and I think that that when we have self-worth and when we have enough, and we've looked after ourselves enough, then we are well able to give from a place of growth and abundance. Because like one of our commentators said, that that we have to learn the act of self-care. It is only when you take a step back
Mm-hmm.
and look after yourself and recoup, that's then that you can also give from a place of strength and abundance. And I remember there's somebody that I knew, right, that, well, it was a long time ago, but a situation that I was very, very aware of somebody that was very helpful, fantastically helpful. The person could go through hell and high water to help somebody. The person could do risky things, like do things that were uncomfortable. And then it could be time, it could be resources. And I used to say that, of course, and then after all of that, when there's a backlash that comes and people take the person for granted, the person begins to get angry. And I said, you have to learn to give from a place of strength. You have to learn to, so for example, if somebody comes to your house and you can't drive down to maybe the person you live in, maybe VGC or wherever, and the person lives on the mainland, you can't drive the person to the mainland. You get the person an Uber. You know, that kind of way. So I just feel that, you know, when we learn to care for ourselves, then we'll be able to give from a place of strength and from a place of abundance. And we've also talked about self-regulation. We've talked about creating healthy boundaries for ourselves. We've talked about how to self-reflect. So I have some questions here, and I hope they're not repetitive. I want to ask you. And there's a question here. What kinds of people should we avoid helping?
That's a difficult question. I don't think you should avoid helping anybody.
There's some kind of people that are drainers.
Like I said, everything is a choice. All right?
Yeah.
Everything is a choice.
Okay.
You can't say, I don't want to help this person, but I can help that person. Everybody is worthy of help. Now, what you allow those people to do to you is your choice.
Okay.
That's it. Everybody is worthy of help. But what you allow those people to do to you afterwards is your choice. So if somebody keeps coming back and coming back and coming back and coming back and doesn't have they don't have any plan to grow out of that needy state, they're just taking and taking and taking, then it's your decision whether you want to continue to give it. So far as you are not, again, remember what we said, you're not getting resentful, you're not hurting yourself. If you want, there's some people that are never going to be able to pay you back. There's some people that are never going to be able to grow out of a state because that is how they are. So for instance, people who are very old, they're never going to stop being needy. People who are mentally ill, they're never going to stop, except there's the miracle that happens. People who are terminally ill, they're never going to be better, except there's a miracle. Do you understand? So there are categories of people that will just not leave that state. That's the way it's going to be. Again, you have to make a choice. I was thinking about one of my very good friends that her mom just passed on, and she was her caregiver, and her mom had dementia, all right? And at some point, it became really difficult for her. And, you know, as caregivers, people don't really realize that it's draining because the person is not giving you back nothing. They're just taking because that's all they're going to do. Because eventually, it's either they die or they're just going to continue to live in that state, all right? So you've got to create pockets of time. And that's what she did. She created pockets of time where she stepped away. Not that she stopped caring for her mom, no. She stepped away and allowed other people to fill that gap where she took the time to, you know, to rejuvenate herself, to care for herself, to love herself, and she came back to the scene. And after her, you know, mom passed, we didn't have a friend who was embittered or who was angry. We just had somebody who was grateful for the opportunity to have been there to care lovingly for her mother. And it took a while. It was about 3 or 4 years, actually. She literally shut her life down. But she was smart enough to create spaces and opportunities to just go away and do what she likes and give other people an opportunity to just, step into her space for a short time, and then she comes back because she was her mom's primary caregiver. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, Kelechi, thank you so much for those insights. Now, I have not done this before on EB Speaks, but I want to do it. We talked about the reasons why people self-sabotage, and you said maybe if we could get somebody to answer this question. So I want to call on Priska. Priska, I know this is just impromptu. Priska.
Hi. Yeah. So I'm in a soccer field, but I can talk, but I can't show my face. I'm in a soccer field, right?
No problem.
But I can talk, right?
Priska, you've been on fire.
Well, because that's what I do. I'm a psychotherapist, so I see all of these scenarios, all the time in session with my patients. So yeah.
So Priska, why do people self-sabotage?
I think sometimes people just feel the need to be accepted or to be liked, by people, and they feel that, when they do things for people, even when it is so hard for them, that person will like them better. But of course, that's never the case, So that's the reason why people self-sabotage. They see the obvious, even parents see the obvious behaviors in their children, and they continue to accept, even when the obvious is, just right in front of you, So that's still an act of self-sabotage for yourself and for your family as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for taking time out from your sporting event to contribute.
No problem.
It's amazing. And one day maybe I would have you on EB Speaks as well.
Oh yeah, that's fine. That's okay.
Fantastic. So maybe you should just email me your details, and then we would have the conversation sometimes.
Yeah, you can get that from my sister.
Kelechi.
Yeah. My sister.
Yes. Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much. So I want to read some contributions here. And somebody says, I think the constant self-reflection, meeting yourself literally, would help you understand yourself enough to get comfortable with who you really are, know your triggers, ultimately set boundaries. It starts with meeting yourself. Kelechi, we had a conversation about meeting ourselves. So we talked about the importance of how, sometimes you just have to enjoy your own company.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it kind of like resonates in this conversation as well.
Yeah.
And somebody says here, great insights, Kelechi. Well done. Kelechi, we have just a few more minutes. I think we have about 21 minutes. And I would see if I have any more questions. 1 second now. Let me see some more questions that I have, and I'll read them out to you. Let me see. The growth mindset. How do we get a better understanding on how to develop a growth mindset? Because sometimes, from the picture, right, the person was given without the intention of growing, and he had nothing. So how then can people have a better understanding of the concept of the growth mindset?
So the growth mindset is actually what we call the abundance mentality. All right.
Yeah.
And it simply talks about the fact that there's enough for everybody, as against the scarcity mentality that makes us compete with one another and tear each other down and, believe that there's only one spot, but actually there's enough for everybody. Now, if we look at life with abundance mentality, or with the abundance mentality, it's easy for us to give knowing that we have enough, or we're going to get enough, or that what we have is okay for us and we're going to get more. And so it doesn't matter what I give away now, I'll always get more back. So remember what I talked about, the universal laws, the law of sowing and reaping. The truth is we do reap what we sow, whether it's good or it's bad. So if you have an abundance mentality, yes, where you are giving and you're giving away from a place of abundance. So in other words, I have more than enough and there's going to be more than enough. You don't feel resentment, you don't feel anger because you're just giving it away because you know that there's more coming from where that is coming from, or there's more ahead of you. So that is the abundance mentality, and it's a very healthy mindset to have. And it's a very healthy mindset, especially when it comes to giving.
Kelechi, I'm still reflecting on the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Because the man in the picture was building. And at the end, he had nothing. So even when we have the abundance mindset, if we do not gather for ourselves, we would have nothing.
Absolutely.
We would have nothing.
Absolutely. So I'm sure, Ibi, you've heard stories about, somebody will say, oh, this person's father used to be this, or the person's mother used to be this. They don't have anything now because guess what? Their parents spent all the time supporting other people's kids. Not that they didn't pay for their children's school fees or anything, but they didn't invest the
connections
exactly for their children, so much so that they invested more in other people and other relationships, hoping that those relationships would help their children. And then when the children get to the point where they needed help, nobody was there to help them.
Yeah.
It happens. Yeah, it happens. All right. So abundance mentality doesn't just say, oh, just give away. You also, because you also have for yourself, you also have got to build. Because what happened to the man in the picture, he spent so much time supporting other people and didn't do anything for himself. So in the end, when they had this wonderful edifice, he had nothing. He had absolutely nothing, and he was livid. He was angry. And I bet you, if I were the cartoonist, the next picture is tear down. I start looking for how am I going to
bulldozers. I must bulldoze. Let us start all over.
Bring them down. Exactly. And it happens. It happens all the time.
Perfect. So Kelechi, in summary, right? Because our conversation is part of avoiding the later life crisis.
Yes.
And in it, we're talking about things to avoid avoid a crisis in your later life. So assuming that somebody who's listening to us today is a compulsive giver, is hearted, likes to do everything to help people, doesn't necessarily have the Messiah complex. What is the system that he has to put in place to avoid the later life crisis in future?
Okay, I think we've actually said everything.
So just
let me just try and summarize. I hope I remember everything. So the first one, like I said, is to reflect, find out who you are. Who are you? What are your dreams? What are your hopes? What are your aspirations? And what do you need to get there? So understand that and begin to do that. So if you remember, we talked about, I think it was somebody on your LinkedIn page that talked about the
oxygen mask.
Yeah, exactly. So in a plane, they'll tell you need to put on your mask first before you help somebody else. All right. So you've got to be about doing your thing before you decide, oh, I'm going to sort out somebody else. It's not as if you can't help people at any point in life. That's not what I'm trying to say. Okay. Or you can't give to people at any point in life. But the truth is, you must not give at the expense of yourself all the time. Of course, there's sometimes you give at the expense of yourself. Sometimes you want to buy something nice for yourself, and somebody actually needs to buy food
or medicine.
Right? Or medicine. There's priorities in life. So that's not what I'm talking about. Okay. I believe in sacrificial giving. But you see, sacrificial giving must not be the kind of give where you're like, if I had known. All right. So the self-reflection, understanding yourself, understanding your purpose, understanding where you are going, and investing in that journey is very important. while you are doing that for other people. And I think the second thing I want to say, and this is a bit off, because there are quite a few people here that are already in their 50s and their 60s, and regrets would come. And you and I know that there are things that even you and I wish we had done differently, right? And I would like to say something, that there's never a time that is too late. And I'm saying this to myself because a couple of months ago, I was feeling like, what am I going to do now? This is what I want to do, but I'm not getting the opportunity. I began to feel like that was really, I was at my lowest point. All right. There's always, so far as you have life, there is an opportunity to do things differently. It might not be as perfect as you would have liked it to be if you had started 20 years ago. But I remember a Chinese proverb that says, the best time to plant a tree was yesterday. Another time is now. All right. So even if you didn't do that yesterday, today is another day. There's always an opportunity to do things again. There's always an opportunity to sit back and change course. I'm a firm believer in people being successful at any point in life. And trust me, Ibi, I didn't come to this conclusion easily. All right. Because I also went through the time when I didn't believe in myself. I was angry. I was upset. I was like, I wish I'd done things differently, or I wish my career would have gone this way. I wish I'd done this like this. But I've got to realize that I can't keep wallowing in the past. Like, I wish. One of the things I've said to myself is that by the time I'm 90 years old, God giving me life, I want to look back at myself and say, yay, you got it going on. I don't want to ever regret anything. And even if I've made mistakes, even if I've made wrong choices, there's always an opportunity to do a U-turn, to start again. Somebody was telling me the story of the gentleman that started Kentucky Fried Chicken. He was 70 years old. If you just think about it. And then somebody else was saying that, I don't know, they just gave me a whole list. And I don't know how, I don't think this individual that sent me that message knew that at that point, I was thinking about my life. In fact, I was like, now, wow.
You're thinking about your life.
Like,
those Nigerian movies, right?
I'm telling you, like, I am you, and I don't know, I don't think the person knew, but the person just sent me and said, this person started this business at this time. This person wrote their first book at this time. This person acted their first movie at this time. This person did that. And all of those ages were in their either late 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And I told myself, girl, you've got nothing to worry about. So I'm just speaking to every body, because if you go through this process, whether you are young, if you're young, it's a fantastic time. You're getting an opportunity to do things differently. If you've had some years and you feel like, oh, I've made some wrong choices, there's always a first time. There's always a time to start again. But again, like we said, do the self-reflection, understand yourself, understand who you are, what your priorities are, what your hopes and dreams are, and then go for it.
Fantastic. Kelechi, it's been an amazing time with you. And I'd like to thank everyone who took time out to join us in the conversation, for everyone who made contributions. Listen, everybody kind of like stayed. And I want to quickly read out this comment here. You say, you love better when you love yourself first. Even
Absolutely.
The Bible says, love your neighbor as yourself. So start with the person in the mirror. When that one is happy, it's easier to help the next person. Thank you so much, Eni, for that insight. And listen, if you're wondering what my channel is about, my channel is about informing, motivating, and inspiring people. And I do this by bringing in experts, everyday people like you and me, and thought leaders, because I believe that collectively that our voices serve as streetlights and survival kits for those coming behind us. So I just want to say thank you, everyone. Listen, there's quite a few people, and I usually don't make it a habit of listing out the names, because sometimes you miss out on some people, and then so it's kind of like embarrassing. So So I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's made the contributions. And listen, I just thought to throw this out. If you want to be a guest on Enebi Speaks, feel free to contact me. My email address is ibi@ebspeaks.com, and you can follow me on my YouTube. You can follow me on my social media handles. It's Instagram Ibinabo Enebi, YouTube. You subscribe Ibinabo Enebi, my Facebook Ibinabo Enebi, and I have a website called ibinaboenebi.com. I have a blog of how I have some materials that I've had written there. You can check it out and read it. So thank you, everybody once again. I'm really appreciative of your time. And Kelechi, I'm going to call you. Thanks, everybody. Mwah, 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 mwah.
Thank you, Ibi. Thank you for inviting me. Good night, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kelechi, I'll call you.
Sure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.